Welcome everybody to a quick look of a game demo called Secrets Untold, made by LegendEx Games, which is, from what I understand, just a one-person team. He's worked on this game for a couple years now, from what I've understood, and demo finally came out, I think today, so I'm really excited to try it because it looks pretty cool. It is an Atomi game. So yeah, let's get going. There is voice acting, actually, too. Partial voice acting. Hang on. Oh, the music's really loud. Hang on. Louder than I thought it would be. Turn that down just a bit. Turn the sounds down. There we go. Should be good? Okay. 18 years ago, a newborn baby girl was left on the doorstep of Castle Vestis. There was nothing notable about her presence, except for the unnerving fact that her origin was unknown. How had she found her way to the kingdom, and what clan did she belong to? With not even a single note left in the baby's basket, the girl's lineage was untraceable. The young queen begged her husband to allow the child to live within the castle's walls. King Rory had a reputation to uphold. He couldn't simply open his home and raise the child as his own blood. Yet, at the same time, his morality and devout faith would not allow him to leave a child hungry and alone. A compromise was made. If the little girl were to remain in his palace, she would have to work for her spot. The baby was placed in the servants' quarters, where she was raised to cook, clean, and serve the king. Despite what it may have seemed like, she was loved and cared for, as many other children of the kingdom were. The other servants were her family. Balder, the young prince, was her friend. She hadn't needed much more than that. Even though she lived blissfully ignorant in the castle, the young girl was anything but proper. Thus her connection to the royal family was hidden away until Balder had proposed. Hang on one second. Silly Discord messages, I swear. Not really sure what it's from. Doesn't matter. Okay. Then her life changed drastically.
What the heck are you doing? Oh, Sir Balder, I apologize for being in your way.
The lump in my throat grew as I heard his velvety smooth laugh. How could I be so irresponsible? I must have looked like a total klutz to Balder. Definitely not queen material. Not at all.
Calista!
He threw his arms around me to steady me. Uh-oh, that's not good.
No need to be so formal. The nobles aren't around.
Hopefully it's better than that one game I played. Oh, the errors. There were just way too many. I let out a sigh of relief and hugged my best friend tightly. Hey, buddy.
Good. I don't know how much longer I can be so formal. I just want to put on some pants and run around in the forest a bit.
That's a terrible idea, darling. How are you supposed to help me rule Vestis if you're soaked in mud?
Dread washed over me. Rule? No, that wasn't what I want to think about at all. I'd much prefer cheering on Balder from the sidelines. The fate of thousands would be in my hands, and that thought alone terrified me. Boy, the pressure would be immense.
Balder, please, can we talk about something else?
I'm only joking. In fact, I'd like to join you in your mud bath if I may, once all of the ceremonies are over.
What would the common folk say?
I'm going to be the Queen of Vestis, and you're totally okay with me rolling around in the mud?
I knew the answer, but I wanted to hear it in his comforting voice. Balder never questioned me. It didn't really matter that I had no title to cling to. Sure, in a few days I'd be queen, but it wouldn't be like anything I hadn't already experienced with Balder. He was the most courageous man I knew. That was why he wouldn't take no for an answer when he told his father that he wanted to marry me.
I like that about you. Your undying thirst for adventure excites me. You can never sit still, and I have this desire to watch you frolic around just to see the trouble that you get yourself into.
I punched his arm playfully.
Thank you. I mean it.
I know, darling. I love you.
He leaned over and kissed my forehead. It was enough to send a shiver down my spine. In just a few days, I'd be his one and only officially. No matter what I feared, he'd always be by my side. We're going to be queen of this
land. Do you
land.
hear that? It might be the palace guards. We should straighten ourselves out a bit.
He reached over and dusted the bodice of my long gown while I straightened his coat.
I should probably go find Loretta. She wanted to fit me for a few gowns.
She does realize the ceremony is in just a few days, yes?
I let out a small laugh and nodded.
Well, this is your fault. I would have been fine with any regular dress. You had to buy several of them.
For my queen, I'd do absolutely anything.
He kissed my forehead once more.
I should be going to fill out more paperwork. This time it's palace inventory. What a drag. Do you know how much I have to do just to get his approval for our marriage?
I said I'd help.
King Roy was a good man if you look past his intense support for the obligation of tradition. He loved his son immensely, but his duty to his kingdom had always come first. Got people to look out for, after all. I mean, you could say it's selfish, but I don't know. I think his heart's in the right place. As the only surviving son of the Parisi name, Balder would inherit the throne. Therefore, his wife would have to become someone of great influence. I did not fit that criteria. I was just a charity baby that the king allowed to be raised in his castle. Of course, Balder saw differently, but it really didn't change the whispers around town. I know how they speak of me. Having me marry Balder would not only be a hit to the family name, but an act of royal stupidity. Marrying for love when there were so many beautiful duchesses out there that could open trade routes across all of Uria? Unheard of. Pitiful even. Discord. Come on, really? What are these messages I'm getting? That's muted. I probably do not disturb, I guess. Hang on. Sorry. I apologize. I didn't think I'd be getting notifications. They usually don't beep. Yet Balder stood firm, and King Roy realized that his son was worth more than a stupid name. Well, at least that was what I was pretending. Balder was the only one of the family that could take the throne. He shed Rory's blood. When Balder threatened to leave the kingdom, there wasn't much of a choice for the king. The paperwork was just a little something extra to keep Balder in line.
No need to worry, darling. Enjoy your last few days as a regular person. The hard work comes later. Meet me in the garden tonight.
Of course I will, Balder. I'd do anything for you, buddy. I nodded curtly.
Same time as usual?
10 p.m. Balder and I met in the garden every single night since we were old enough to roam the castle without a maidservant. As we got older, I remained carefree, but Balder, he had more important things to worry about. He had archery lessons, dinners to attend, and diplomats to meet. But even with all of the stress of his impending kingship, he found time for me in the garden. With a short nod and a wave, he left the room. There wasn't much else I could do, so I decided to go to my dressing room to see Loretta.
If you're really going to be queen in a few days, you're going to have to work on being more prompt.
Boy, this is a really big room. My ears were met with a discordant voice. Loretta, as whiny as usual.
Sorry, I was caught up doing something. Do you have the last dress choices so I can finally move on with my life?
No need to be so snarky. I have 3 more dresses for you to try on. Now get a move on. We don't have all year.
I groaned. Ugh. Hate trying on clothes.
Loretta, please. I'm fine with any dress you choose for me. You know I hate all the attention and fuss.
Loretta let out a drawn-out laugh.
Oh, you'd better get used to it, hon. You'll be the Queen of Vestis very soon, and attention is all you'll have.
Lovely.
I collapsed onto the chair as Loretta scrambled to pick out a dress for me to try on. Minutes ticked away, and soon the minutes turned to hours. Did I really have to have my hair and makeup done for each dress I tried on?
Well, what do you think?
I simply shrugged and stood up. I was exhausted, and I needed to take a rest before I met up with Balder.
I like them all. It's your choice.
Well, no, honey, it's your choice. You're the one who's going to be wearing it after all.
Oh, no, Calista! Get back here and make up your mind!
She shouted after me, but I was already halfway out the door. I sent her a quick wave before rushing out of the room. Loretta wouldn't allow me to look horrible in front of all of the noble families of Vestis. I knew I had nothing to worry about. Why do we have plants growing in our bed? Doesn't matter. I collapsed into the sofa in my room. It was so nice to finally be off my feet. Who knew that being royalty was so much work? Funny thing was that I was just given room after Balder announced our engagement. I'd actually been staying in the servants' quarters with Loretta and the other maids. Having no last name left me with no status in Araya, but so by default, King Rory thought it's best I start at the bottom. I finally had time to be alone with my thoughts. Maybe that wasn't the best thing. I'd be queen in a few short days. Was I really ready for that kind of responsibility? Being with Balder was everything that I had ever dreamed of. Finally, I was moving up from my servant status to be at the top with my best friend. I should have been happy. But I doubted my position. I mean, what qualified me to be a good leader? Love? No. Being loved by Balder would not help this kingdom. I would shoulder the looks of dissatisfied townspeople for what? Love? My head pounded. I knew I loved Balder, but that was the only thing I was sure about. The rest he promised would fall into place. I really wished it would, because I didn't want to give him up. Balder was the one who told me that I was worth something. I was more than just an orphan that his father took in. I was Calista. I come in. I was broken from my thoughts by a knock on the door.
Calista! Calista, open up right now!
I groaned. It was Loretta. Well, maybe if I pretended to sleep, she would leave. I lay down on the cushions and stretched my legs out. Knowing Loretta, it'd be a while until she gave up, so it was best if I made myself comfortable.
Calista! Open up! Right now!
Loretta was one to blabber her way through any situation. She was the most talkative member of the help. Loretta would yell through the door if she needed something. That was what I kept telling myself to justify my laziness. I didn't want to get up. I was on my feet all day, and the only chance I had to sit down was being interrupted.
Calista, please!
God, just leave me alone! This time her voice was different. Her words were loud and urgent. I stood up, trying to steady my rapidly beating heart. It only seemed to quicken as I approached the door. What if something had happened? Loretta wasn't calling me to tell me to do something. This was a plea for help. I hadn't realized it, but my feet dragged me to the wooden door. I held the doorknob firmly in my hands. Any thoughts I had of opening the door were gone once I heard the ear-piercing scream. Was that Loretta? The free hand flew up to my mouth. The other slid down the doorknob. My palms were wet with sweat. I took a few steps back. Was Loretta dead? A pang of guilt rushed through my body. If I had opened the door, could I have stopped whatever was happening, or would I have just walked into more danger? Loretta may have been annoying, but she was the closest thing I had to a mother. If I ever lost her, I don't know what I'd do. I bit my lip, trying to hold back my tears. I hoped that she was fine. Right now, I didn't have time to stand here and contemplate things. Something was seriously wrong. I needed to formulate a plan, and quickly. But we're opening the door. As I reached for the doorknob, I heard a low growl behind me.
You can't really be that stupid, can you?
What?
There's an assassin after you and you're just gonna walk right into him?
Assassin? What? I whipped around to face the man clad in black.
What the?
I stumbled a few feet backwards, trying to distance myself from the stranger. He only shook his head and rolled his eyes.
Who the hell are you? And how did you get in here?
There really isn't time for questions.
He was silenced by the rattling of the doorknob. Before I could utter a single word, his hand flew up to my mouth. I struggled to escape from his grasp, but it was no use. He was a lot stronger than I was.
Keep your voice down. Do not make a sound. If he finds you, he will kill you. I promise to explain everything as soon as he's gone.
I decided to comply with his orders. If he was right, I was in a lot of trouble. Maybe it was my paranoia speaking, but I thought I knew the exact reason for the sudden intrusion. There was a surprising amount of opposition to me becoming Queen of Vestis. My family origin was non-existent. I was living in the servants' quarters up until now. What experience did I have ruling a country? A lot of people wanted me out of the picture because of that. I didn't think they'd go this far, really. The stranger moved away from me, but he held his hand out to remind me to stay silent.
Calista, baby, come on out. I'm giving you one last chance. If I have to find you myself, I won't be so nice about it.
Oh man, this guy reminds me of Zagi from Tales of Vesperia, who was also an assassin, by the way. It just fits. I began to breathe faster than I ever thought possible. The room was spinning, and I couldn't focus on a single thing. I felt like I would vomit at any moment. All the while, the stranger seemed unperturbed.
I thought we'd be able to evade this guy, but I guess I'll have to take more drastic measures. Try to calm down and keep your voice down. I'm gonna run out and distract him. Stay put.
I didn't have time to answer because the stranger had already lunged toward the intruder. His movements were swift, and if I had blinked, I would have missed them. I had a bad feeling about this. What the hell was this guy doing? The stranger drew his sword and tackled my assailant to the ground. Then, as gracefully as he could, the man turned to me and spoke.
You may want to cover your eyes. This won't be pretty.
The stranger hovered above the assassin with the tip of his sword pressed against the man's exposed neck. Instinctively, I covered my face. But that mask didn't last for long. I didn't want to see a man murdered, but at the same time, I really couldn't look away.
Tell me, who's paying you to do this?
The assassin didn't answer. Instead, he spit at the stranger. It was a vulgar display. Under normal circumstances, anyone who had the gall to desecrate the castle would be imprisoned.
I'm not selling out my boss. Kill me, you pathetic bastard.
I'm really not kidding about covering your eyes. I'm gonna ask him one more time, and if he doesn't answer, it's off with his head.
Off with your head! He took his thumb and slid it across his throat, as if to say that's what would happen to the filthy-mouthed assassin.
Just kill me, you prick. I ain't telling you shit.
My hands flew to my face. Oh man. Someone was about to be murdered in my room. I leaned against the wall closest to me and shut my eyes tightly. It was either him or me. That's what I kept telling myself. Yeah. Think he's alright? You okay? No? Okay. Just like that, it was over. There was a mutilated man bleeding out of my brand new rug. Oh man, I got that from Persia. I was mortified. I stared at the motionless body for a few more moments. The whole ordeal had ended just as quickly as it all began. I wasn't so sure that I was thankful for the stranger's help. I mean, I was safe, but was there no other way to have handled this, really? I know I was being naive, but I couldn't help wish that killing was the last resort.
We have to go.
The mysterious stranger beckoned to me. I nodded slowly and stepped forward. I looked around just to make sure that we were truly alone. Once I was sure, I began speaking.
What exactly is going on?
Someone really doesn't want you to be the future queen.
He seemed to be satisfied with his own answer, and advanced toward the now open door. He held onto the side of the doorframe as he peeked out of the room.
The coast is clear, come on.
Wow, didn't know I was that popular.
I wanted to ask him so many more questions, but if we didn't leave now, who knew what would happen?
Glad you could see the humor in all this.
I mean, it's not that funny, but alright. I reached out and grabbed my arm. My questions couldn't wait. Who knew what was out there and what could happen? I needed some kind of a warning.
Wait, I have more questions.
Save them. There's no time now.
The man was impatient, and I began walking forward without me. I tried protesting, but all I did was turn his head so that I could see him roll his eyes at me, then kept walking forward. He knew that I'd follow him like a puppy. I guarded his back, but quickly ran after him. It was probably smart to stay with him. Since, he had a sword and everything. The man stopped for a moment. He didn't so much as move a muscle, but his eyes gave him away. I moved past his body and, to my horror, saw that Loretta's corpse was right outside my room. Poor Loretta. I've known you all for 5 minutes. I pushed the thoughts of nausea, guilt, and sadness from my head and tried to steel myself. I'm not really a big fan of when stories try to kill characters off early on because you don't really get a time to kind of understand and bond with said characters. I mean, it just seems like something they just do for a quick emotional shock. If I was going to make it out of this alive, I had to be strong. I stepped over Loretta's body, this time keeping my eyes closed, as not to emblazon her motionless eyes in my memory. I walked forward and past this chapter of my life. Maybe I would revisit it, but I couldn't face it right now. I just kept thinking of her smiling face when she saw me in my wedding dress. That'd be the way I remembered her. I had noticed that the man was continuing further down the hall, completely oblivious to the inner monologue I was having. How dare he not read my mind? I ran to catch up with him.
Wait up!
The usually busy hall was empty. There were no servants cleaning or guards talking. The hollowness terrified me. It was eerie. I can only wonder what had happened to everyone. Did they flee or were they killed? I dismissed my second idea. There weren't any bodies scattered around, but it was deadly silent.
Is there any event happening tonight?
He finally stopped walking and turned to me. I shook my head.
Not that I know of. Balder hasn't mentioned anything. Do you think...
My voice trailed off. Maybe there was a logical reason for the absence of the royal guard. They could have been protecting the king and escorting the royal family off of the premises.
Where are the guards? It's hard to believe that with so many men roaming the building, an assassin would make it into the kingdom.
That's a good point. He was right. How did a single assassin get past all of the guards? King Roy employed a mass amount of them. The assassin had to be working with them. Otherwise, where would they be? Logically, one man wasn't skilled enough to take out that many men, but I couldn't fathom that the guards would turn their back on their king. Every decision Rory made bettered the kingdom.
Calista!
Oh, Balder, you're safe. Balder's shout of panic reached my ears, and I knew this wasn't a dream. Something bad was happening in the castle. The same castle I'd just been chatting excitedly to my fiancée in. But now, his favorite white coat was drenched in what I assumed was blood.
Balder!
Staring at him caused all my hesitation to just drift away. I had to make sure that he was okay. When I tried to approach him, the stranger's arm flew out in front of me.
You can't go to him.
I'm sorry?
He's my fiancé. You can't keep me from him.
I shouted and tried to push his arm away, but once again the man in black overpowered me. He grabbed me by the waist and pushed me behind his heaving torso. Balder drew his sword and pointed it at the stranger.
Unhand her.
You don't understand.
Balder only stepped closer to us. I watched the two. I couldn't grasp. I couldn't escape the stranger's grasp. Was Balder a match for him? I didn't want my fiancée to get hurt.
She's in danger. She won't be safe here. They'll come back. She has to run away.
With you? There's no chance. You won't be taking my lady. How do I know that you're not the one who issued the attack in the first place?
That's a good point. The stranger looked at me with pleading eyes. I couldn't lie.
He saved my life. Without him, I would have been dead.
Could have been a ruse. Balder seemed to soften his gaze.
I'm glad you're all right. I don't know what I would have done without you.
I opened my mouth to respond, but it seemed as if the stranger was bursting at the seams. I closed my mouth and just let him talk. His pleas were made in my direction.
Please, my lady, you have to believe me. If you stay here with these guys, they will come back and try to kill you again.
We have more than enough manpower to protect her. We weren't prepared today, but we will be. I'll hire all the men in Aria if I have to. Calista, you will be safe with me.
The problem is that all it takes is one screw-up to get somebody killed, like today.
First of all, before you two start fighting, why don't one of you tell me what the hell is going on?
My hands were shaking. I needed answers, and I needed them now.
Please, I need an explanation. Something. Why were those men after me?
Like I said before, someone really doesn't want you to be queen.
Balder moved towards the man and reached out to me. Realizing he couldn't stand against the Prince of Vestis, the stranger let me go. I held on to Balder as if he began questioning the mystery man.
Who the hell are you anyway? And how will I know that you won't turn on her?
My name is Kieran. I work for the Shadows in Novum. We heard word about an assassination attempt on the future queen. We didn't think it'd be this early. I came here on recon, but it seems like I had perfect timing.
A little too perfect if you ask me.
The Shadows?
I tried to hide my astonishment, but I was pretty sure that both men could see right through me. The Shadows were the kind of group that stole from the rich and gave to the poor, like Robin Hoods. Their methods weren't conventional. If they had to step on toes to get what they wanted, they'd do it. This kept the Shadows as an underground organization. Anything official and the king had to come after them. They had a huge popularity in the lower lands. Here, they were nothing but whispers.
Say that's true. Now what?
You come with me, and we flee the kingdom. You stay hidden until we figure out just who wanted to kill you, and then, when we do, I eliminate the threat. When that's done with, you go back to your happy ever after.
But people might kill me again.
Our wedding is in 3 days. Nobles from every kingdom are coming. We cannot postpone it. My parents will never let me marry her if not now.
Tell me, why is it you're in such a hurry to marry her?
Excuse me? Why are you questioning our relationship?
I don't have to explain myself to you or anyone else.
Exactly.
I love Calista immensely. She's an incredible human being. I had to beg my parents to allow me to marry her, but it seems as if every force is against us.
All of that may be true, but I don't take you for a fool. You take advantage of this uproar and marry Calista as soon as possible to set an example to the people.
If he loves me, then that's just a bonus.
Kieran frowned at my answer, but I didn't care. I knew that Balder loved me. It didn't matter what perks came from the wedding. Those weren't his intentions.
If you marry him now, the assassination threats are going to get worse, and they won't stop at you. They'll spread out to everyone you care about, even the prince.
I have the power to will thousands of men. You do not have to worry about my safety, Calista.
Will your men be able to stop any threat against this castle? You don't know when they'll strike next or who called the attack in the first place. You'd be putting a lot of people in danger.
I've heard enough.
My voice was feeble as I attempted to silence the men. I was conflicted, but both men had brought up good points. There was someone, or maybe even multiple people, who wanted me dead. Balder had the money and the resources to protect me, but there was a chance that he could get hurt if the assassins came back. If I went with Kieran, the brunt of the assault wouldn't be on the castle. Balder and his family would be left alone. We don't know that. They could, threaten him for whereabouts. I'd be away from Balder for some time, but he'd be safe.
It should be up to me where I go, shouldn't it?
It should. Kieran looked at Balder. Balder glanced back at him. Kieran looked anxious. Balder looked upset. They were unrelenting. Finally, Kieran spoke up.
Can we both agree on that?
Balder only nodded in response. When he was silent like this, it was because he thought that the person he was conversing with wasn't worth his time. Kieran didn't say anything more either. It seemed as if no more words were needed from either of them. It was time for me to take the stage.
I want to.
Ooh, do we go with Kiran or we stay with Balder? You know what? Let's just stay with our future husband, I think. You know what? This guy's nice, but I'm still worried about the safety.
I'm staying here with my fiancé.
Exactly.
There's not a single doubt in my mind. Balder is my everything. I'd never leave him. This is something we can figure out together.
I threw my arms around Balder's neck and leaned up to kiss his cheek.
I promise. I'll keep you safe.
But you didn't keep me safe. I almost died. It's okay, though. I forgive you, honey. Though Balder's grip around my waist was tight, his gaze was on someone else's entirely. He was staring at Kiran. A look of pure hate adorned his porcelain face. I'd never seen him like this before. He disliked a lot of people, but he had never had a glare as intense as this. I caressed his cheek with my right hand.
Balder.
That seemed to have knocked him out of his trance. He turned his head slightly and kissed my hand gently.
I'm very sorry about all of this. You should not have to endure any of it.
You can't take the blame for it. It's not your fault.
I'm not standing right here or anything.
The mysterious shadow was waving his hands wildly in front of himself in an attempt to get our attention. I began to whisper to Balder.
What do we do about him?
We kill him. Balder patted my head and then turned his attention to Kiran.
As you can see, my beloved has made her choice. There is no need for you to be here any longer.
This is probably going to be a problem.
You know what? This is our choice we made. Do not try to belittle our choices and our decisions as a person, okay? Thank you. He was talking more to himself than he was to us.
Explain yourself.
Oh, it's nothing. Just that the shadows really don't like when people get in their way. I'm not saying I'm going to do anything, but someone might.
That sounds an awful lot like a threat against the kingdom.
That does sound an awful lot like a threat against the kingdom, Balder. You're absolutely right. Kill this man.
It's a warning.
Still a threat. Kill this man. Kiran said no more. He gave us a short wave and strolled away as if he owned the castle himself. I hoped that he wouldn't be a problem later on. I turned to say something to Balder, but I was cut off by a deep voice.
That boy was quite smug. Why didn't you deal with him, Balder?
That's what I told him to do.
Father!
My eyes widened at the king. He was alright. More than alright. Not even a spot of blood on him.
Is your blade useless?
Balder's sword was ridden with blood. He had used it, no doubt, but on who? The tension was thick. I almost didn't realize that I was holding my breath. I tightened my grip on Balder's hand. It was limp in my grasp. His entire body had gone rigid as he stared dumbfounded at his father.
I'm talking to you, son. Give me an answer. Why did you let that boy go? He is a member of the Shadows. We would have had a plethora of new knowledge to eliminate them once and for all.
Balder remained silent. Why wasn't he answering his father? If anyone had the right to talk back, it would be Balder. Nobody else in the kingdom could raise their voice at their ruler. Balder had just shut down completely. He's just petrified. One moment he was glaring at Karan, and the next he was shrinking back. I knew for a fact that capturing Karan was not on his mind at all.
How are you going to be king if you cannot do something as simple as gathering intel?
Yeah, Balder, how are you going to be king? I could feel my blood boiling as the king berated his son. I didn't know whether it was my place to jump in or not. You know what? We're his future wife. Let's say something in defense of our future husband. I wouldn't let the man attack my fiancé just because he was the ruler of a kingdom. Didn't give him the right to be a royal ass.
Balder would make a great king. He fought all of those people just to protect this kingdom. And what would capturing that guy do? If he really is a shadow, he wouldn't just hand you the information.
The king let out a sigh of annoyance. He turned his gaze to the poised man at his side and nodded. I hadn't even realized that Sir Taylor, the king's royal advisor, was standing right there to begin with. When Taylor stepped forward, the king took the opportunity to walk away. It was as if he was dismissing us. I understood his hatred for me, but his own son?
Miss Calista, if I may be so kind as to explain to you everything wrong with your line of thinking, I am well versed in furthering the kingdom's interests, and can answer you quite readily.
You know what? You sound like a smug asshole.
Balder is incompetent, and if not for his blood, he would never be considered for a position so prestigious.
I think I was right on the money on that one. Taylor was so painfully blunt, none of that was true. Balder would be a great ruler. I was sure of it. He wouldn't rule with an iron fist, but a kind hand. It's what the people needed, not a tyrant. Sir Taylor wasn't done talking. He had a great deal more to say.
To be a good king, one must think with their head and not their heart, no matter what the consequence. This is no child's game. That boy would have given us information, and if not, we could have used him to send a message to the Shadows. Our rule is supreme.
Send a message? As in, kill Karan to throw in the Shadow's face? I mean, what good would that do? Bloodshed wasn't necessary. I looked at Balder, whose hands were balled up into fists. It's okay, you can punch him. He was holding back a few choice words. I could just imagine the curses that danced at the tip of his tongue. He was the prince, and he'd never be able to act on his anger. But I was a different story. The king already disliked me. I could say anything I wanted.
I don't doubt King Rory's rule, but killing should always be a last resort.
I would have just unleashed on that guy.
With all due respect, your opinion matters little to me and the king. I am the royal advisor, not you.
Excuse me, I'm future queen. Man, I'm gonna fire this guy so fast.
With all due respect, she's going to be my bride in just a few short
Exactly.
days. That makes her a Parisi, and her status elevates above yours. Her opinion should matter.
You tell him. It was Balder's first remark since his father's outburst. It made my heart just swell just thinking about it. He was defending me.
That may be the case in a few days, but it isn't at the moment.
Balder reached around my waist and pulled me closer to him.
She is the future of this kingdom. She exudes passion, credibility, and loyalty. You could learn a thing or two from her.
Ever so slowly, he leaned down and placed a peck on my forehead. He was antagonizing Taylor, daring him to make a move that would anger the king. While Rory hated the way Balder behaved sometimes, the boy was his only surviving blood. A Parisi could be put down by another Parisi, but not by Sir Taylor.
You do not hold as high a place in the ranks as you may think. Marrying her might just lower your rank instead of elevating hers.
I was taken aback by his words. I mean, they were harsh. Truth be told, he was probably right. Still. There were things happening right now that I didn't understand. I needed to do something about this and soon. This concludes the demo of Secrets Untold. Why not go back and try some different choices? Thank you for your support. For more information on the full game, please see the README. Okay, well, that's it for this demo. Obviously, you can make some different choices than I did. If you want to play it for yourself, you can go with the Shadow Man and see what that leads. You know, or you know, just see what happens. I hope you enjoyed the demo. We'll link the demo in the description. And I'm looking forward to the full release of the game. I'm not sure when it's going to come out. But she's working on it as hard as she can, obviously. So, yeah, it seems really cool. And that'll be it for this quick look. And I will see you all next time, and have a good day.